What's up guys, K-Plays here.
With the 3.0 update coming up soon and some more weapon upgrades likely to come with it, I want to look over some of the horns from the Elder Dragons that were added in the last update.
As some of you might have seen already, they aren't exactly the most competitive options, to put it lightly. The most significant changes in the last update for Hunting Horn came in the form of stronger upgrades to pre-existing horns like the Tigrex and Rampage lines. Looking over the song list of the trio horns, they're clearly built more for a rock paper scissors style countering members of the trio than being standalone weapons. Chameleos cancels out Kushala's wind and roars, Kushala negates Teastra's heat aura, and Teastra cures Chameleos' poison while recovering up the leftover damage. The possibility of further upgrades is a plus for these horns though, including Naro and Ibushi's by the way, because they're all only at their first stage of upgrades. If Capcom can casually toss 40 raw into the Rakudakadaki horn or give Tigrex natural white sharpness, I don't think it's out of the question that the Elder Horns could get a bit of TLC in the upcoming update. For now though, they seem better suited to builds of more gimmicky nature, and those are what we'll be getting into in a sec. We'll save Naro and Ibushi specifically for after the update, since those monsters are closely tied to the story and their weapons are bound to be getting boosted with the inevitable finale. For now though, let's hop into my sets for the trio. Starting off with the Blessed Ocarina from Chameleos, remember what I said about it possibly being a strong utility focused horn? Yeah, not with 160 raw it's not. That's the obvious weak point that turned out in this horn that I'd like to see addressed in its future upgrade, because otherwise it's an interesting horn to build around. Poison has apparently been reverted back to the mechanics that let you build up the next activation while a monster is already poisoned, so if you're aggressive enough you can keep that extra damage ticking pretty consistently. You get a good set of slots to work with in set building, which is nice because most of the stronger horns lack those. White Sharpness is accessible from Handicraft 3 onwards, which you'll definitely want to snag to give Chameleos' poor horn all the damage boost it can get.
The thing that had me most interested here is the unique Chameleos Soul ability.
This gives you a chance to heal or get temporary buffs to attack, defense, or stamina as you attack. Depending on your luck, you could either get a much needed damage boost or enjoy some more survivability and comfort for free.
Unfortunately though, this effect seems to have a very low chance to activate, so unless you want to use it just because it's different, I'd probably just ramp up for attack instead. Now with the suggested set, I could try to cover it for its low damage potential, but let's be real. You've all probably seen the typical offensive sets before, and if you really wanted to do more raw damage, you'd be better off just using another horn instead. With that in mind, we'll instead be focusing on what players are much more likely to be using this horn for. It would have been nice if this horn had a healing song so we can make use of the peak performance on the Chameleos waist, but we'll work with what we have on the other pieces. This set is pretty restrictive when it comes to slots, but I managed to just barely fit in all the basics. The payout we're looking for here is the longer poison durations you get from the Chameleos Blessing skill. With those, you'll have a much easier time keeping a steady stream of poison damage ticking away at monster health bars.
Moving on to Deora's Talis, we're starting to look at a more reasonable set of stats. The main selling point on this horn is the fact that it has the highest ice element out of all our current choices. It's still up in the air how well Elemental Hunting Horn matches up to Raw and Rise, but if you do want to go that route to switch things up, this will be your main pick for ice. Like Blessed Ocarina, we'll also need 3 points of Handicraft to hit White Sharpness, but here we'll be able to use it much more consistently thanks to the free Razor Sharp we get from the Sharpness Use Reduce song. The stat advantages don't stop there either. We get to start with 10% affinity, which can go even higher if you're using the Kushala Soul ramp up. As long as you're attacking, your total affinity would jump up to 40%. This works nicely with our chosen set for Deora's Talis, which I've chosen to build mainly around crit based damage. Depending on your preferences and or the monster's ice weakness, you can choose to add either crit element or crit boost to the set. Personally, I go with boost just so I can hit hard even on elementally resistant targets. I suggest going with this horn and build only if you're looking to play elemental. These stats and this song list don't really lend themselves to much else. We'll talk about the rest of the element options in a future video, but for now, we'll move on to the final trio member. Last but not least, we have Teastra's Tipo. Out of all three, this is possibly the one with the most potential to be a solid general purpose horn. We get a decent amount of attack and blast status here, and you'll be able to squeeze even more out of the latter with the Teastra's Soul ramp up boosting the power of your explosions. The song list is a well-rounded mix of offense and comfort that isn't quite as focused towards a specific utility gimmick like the others. Yeah, you can use it against Chameleos, but this isn't so restricted that the niche wouldn't be useful in other fights.
The main catch for me here though is that sharpness bar. We get a massive chunk of green and a tiny bit of blue to start off with, but if you want to get the white, you'll have to sink the full 5 points of Handicraft into it just to see 10 hits. The damage multiplier you'd normally want from White Sharpness isn't really worth going for here because of the amount of skill points you need to invest just to get to it.
Rise isn't quite like Iceborne where you could make that work without much effort just by using Master Touch and 100% affinity.
When it comes to the general purpose sets, we'll be building slightly differently depending on whether you want to run Bludgeoner to take advantage of all that green sharpness, or use Protective Polish to stretch that sliver of blue. The damage difference is pretty minor, so the choice is really up to you.
If the explosions are more your thing, you can also lean more towards that aspect and max out your blast output. Teatra's horn is pretty much the best thing we have for that right now. Either way though, this horn isn't half bad and has a decent chance of getting even better soon. I'm really hoping that all these horns are going to glow up down the line actually. At the very least, Teatra would be a nice addition to the high-end selection, but all three would be even better. We slipped back into the attack up meta with Update 2.0 since we no longer have utility horns quite as strong as Wild Grunt that are able to beat the more typical top contenders. It was fun while it lasted, but nothing says we can't see a comeback through buffs to our old choices or some new surprises in Update 3.0. I'm excited to see and talk about what's in store for us near the end of the month.
If you are too and want to hear some of my thoughts on the upcoming content, consider liking this video and subscribing for more when they arrive.
Till then though, this has been another K-Plays and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.